Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and wow, lots of things, many things, different things worthy of comment, busier than usual. Add to that the fact that I was away last week, and so where do we begin? We'll begin, I suppose, and get it out of the way, with 2 weeks ago. It was the Super Bowl. So if you know me, you know that historically I've got a pretty good record of picking teams through the NFL playoffs. Historically, that is true. Not this year. 2 weeks ago, we entered the day with a 50-50 record, not exactly terrific. And in what amounted to a coin flip toss, I picked Carolina. And I did that basically because I thought their very good defense would do a better job bottling up 39-year-old Peyton Manning than Denver's extremely good defense would be able to bottle up Cam Newton. And it is true that the Broncos' pass rush hurried and beat up New England's Tom Brady 4 weeks ago. But I thought that Carolina's better running game, which on occasion includes Newton, would diffuse some of that and offset it. Not. But the final score, 24-10, 2 touchdowns. And 2 of the Broncos' touchdowns came as a result of the pass rush causing fumbles by Cam Newton. So without those, who knows? They might still be playing in a tie. Playing in, 278th overtime period. Anyway, Cam Newton wasn't up to it ultimately. I said that I watched him grow over the last 5 years. He'd become a team leader. He used to pout when things weren't going well, but he seemed to grow out of that. And that is a true statement. He has grown, but he obviously hasn't grown enough as of yet. And although his pouting was reflected most after the game, if you saw it, the very terrible after-game press conference. But on that, I offer 2 thoughts. I have watched New England's coach Bill Belichick, who's older. He's had a lot of success. Presumably he's got more maturity than Newton. And yet, following losses, I have seen him be just as taciturn. Thought number 2. All right, no, Cam Newton hasn't fully developed to the level we wish for a first-round draft pick quarterback. Then again, he's not Johnny Manziel. All right, so football is now history, and one could make the case that it, and especially the Super Bowl, is a study in the ridiculous. It would then make sense if we balanced our stories today with a tilt from the ridiculous to the sublime. It would make sense to do so, but the politics in this country have in fact become more circus-like than the circus. And it's not funny, it's even tragic. I could write a book, and who knows, maybe I'll write another book one day, but I'm just going to mention a couple of things, and this is all just, remember, just over the last couple of weeks. So, on our previous show, I said that I could easily refute the argument made by those who claim that the U.S. Constitution is not a living document. Those who say that the Founding Fathers wrote it, it is in stone, and it doesn't change. Now, I am not a lawyer, but I don't think one has to be a lawyer to understand that language evolves. And to understand what was meant by a phrase or a sentence in a different age, sometimes you have to research how the expressions and phrases and sentences and words were used 230, 240 years ago. But it's even easier than that to refute the fact that the Constitution is not dead. It is a living document, and I offer the simple fact. The framers of the Constitution patently knew that it was a living document. Were it not so, they would not have provided for amendments. Were it not so, women wouldn't vote. Individuals of color could never be citizens. A person of color would only count as 3/5 of a person. They made amendments. Now, I don't think of myself as dogmatic. I'd like to think of myself as open-minded and able to be persuaded, but I can't believe any argument could persuade me from providing that amendment making clearly proves the Constitution is a living document. So why are we on this? Because, I bring it up, because one of perhaps the most influential dissenters of that idea died last week. And of course, I'm referring to Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonin Scalia. Died apparently of a heart attack, apparently in his sleep. That's not known for certain, but he was on vacation at a ranch in Texas. He didn't come down for breakfast. All right. So to iterate, I am not a lawyer. But his opinion of the Constitution was opposite mine. In his words, quoting, "It's dead, dead, dead." From the standpoint of credentials, my opinion certainly doesn't stack up very well against his opinion. But fortunately, there are those who agree with me, who disagree with him, and they are equally as well credentialed as he. So he's dead. Now, the implications of this are enormous, and it's, I think, rather surprising, almost beyond belief. Near the top, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said President Obama ought not even nominate anyone because if he did, the Senate wouldn't even vote on it. This is virtually unprecedented. Look, I get it. If someone with a clearly left-leaning history like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg were submitted, yeah, the Republican majority Senate would vote it down. But to not even vote, they're saying it doesn't matter whom you nominate, it's the next president who should make the nomination. They're saying let the people have a voice. The people have a voice. They voted in 2012 to re-elect Barack Obama. They did that, we'll assume, with the knowledge that they know it's a 4-year term, and we'll assume that they knew that among his duties, any president's duties, is appointing judges. Another point, if they believe a president in his last year ought not, well, let's say he did and submitted it for a vote. If they are true to that principle, then those senators who are up for re-election this year, if they're true to their own principle, wouldn't they refrain from voting in good conscience? Let the people speak in the fall election? It just strikes me as a bit of hypocrisy. All right, so there's history. Ronald Reagan's last SCOTUS nominee was Arthur Kennedy. He was confirmed in President Reagan's last year by the Senate, 97-0. Plenty of Democrats who voted to confirm in President Reagan's last year. It used to be that unless the guy was in some way notorious, you didn't have to like his politics. If he were a good jurist and had the credentials, one who was notorious comes to mind. Reagan nominee Douglas Ginsburg. Ginsburg withdrew from consideration. He was in fact replaced by Arthur Kennedy. Why did he withdraw? It was found out he smoked some weed, which somehow seems rather quaint. Anyway, to their credit, not every Republican agrees with McConnell. Former Florida governor, presidential candidate Jeb Bush, said that if he were president, he'd make the nomination. So did Republican governor of Maine, Paul LePage, and he is considered hard right. Others have said this, and then within a day or two they've gone the other way. They backtracked. And I find it all sad, really, because if you read the biographies of some of those who might be nominated, there are some really brilliant jurists. To not even consider, I think that is sad. Okay, aside from the SCOTUS fight, there have been plenty of goings-on with the presidential election. It's no longer headlines, but after poor showings in New Hampshire, Chris Christie, Rick Santorum, and Carly Fiorina have all ended their campaigns. Donald Trump, woohoo! He won, and he made the most of it, of course. Marco Rubio had a bad debate just before the voting in New Hampshire. He fell, I think, to fifth. Ohio Governor John Kasich came in second. So now the attention shifts to South Carolina and Nevada. It's weird scheduling, okay? My deadline prevents me from knowing anything, but by the time this gets published on Sunday morning, at this point, half the results are known. South Carolina holds its Republican primary Saturday morning, February 20th. The Democrats do it a week later, on the 27th. But also Saturday, Nevada is having its Democratic caucus, but the Republicans caucus on Tuesday. So depending on when you're watching it, you'll know some or even maybe all of the results. One other thing. I've made it pretty clear that I find Donald Trump's candidacy to be distasteful. I'm certainly not alone in that. But at least he is openly distasteful. He's not sneaky distasteful. He says ugly and distasteful things, but he does them out in the open. I am finding this guy, Ted Cruz, to be even more distasteful. I had previously mentioned that on the night of the Iowa caucuses, he and his minions tweeted a rumor that Ben Carson was quitting the campaign, which was untrue. Earlier this week, a paid-for by Cruz website was showing this, designed, obviously, to make hard-right Republicans turn against Rubio. Rubio's campaign was pretty ticked off, and it's hard not to blame him. Positions aside, the photo was obviously fake. So then, midweek, another brouhaha erupts. A robocall was started being made to South Carolina voters. It was delivered entirely in Spanish. And several words which you could understand occurred. Rubio, illegal immigrants, amnesty. And the thing is, South Carolina doesn't have a particularly large Latino population. So the thinking is, okay, if a non-Latino voter gets that call, hears it in Spanish and infers that Marco Rubio is for amnesty, well, that might push them away from Rubio and toward Trump or Bush or Cruz, no? The Rubio campaign thinks it's being done by the Cruz campaign, which they have denied. And I hate it. I hate it. This reminds me of 2000. In South Carolina, a push poll was conducted, denied at the time, but conducted by the Bush campaign. It asked, would you be more or less likely to vote for a senator who'd fathered a black child? Something like that. Also, there were flyers put on windshields and parking lots, pictures of John McCain along with his stepdaughter. She was adopted from Mother Teresa's orphanage in India. Yes, she's got dark skin. Stepdaughter. It would seem they have no shame. It is true, the recent Republican debates have turned ugly, like knife fights, but the campaign tactics like that seem to me not like knife fights, but like knife attacks from behind, at night. And again, I'm saddened. Okay, not really about the elections, but instead of sidebar, I learned last week, you know that smartphone you take with you everywhere? Well, in Iowa, people caucused, and there are data miners who take the locator information from your phone. So if you were at a Republican caucus, they know you were at the Republican caucus. If you were at the Democratic, they know the same thing. That, and then they glean lots of other info every time you go anywhere. If you buy something, if you go to a driving range and hit a bucket of balls, or Bed Bath & Beyond, or buy a honey-baked ham, all of that stuff feeds the big data. And then the advertising you're exposed to is more and more targeted. Now, they couldn't do that in New Hampshire because everybody went to the polling places. You voted for a Democrat or a Republican, but you went to the same place. But in South Carolina and Nevada, they're split, as we mentioned. So you're going to give the information. In South Carolina, Republicans vote Saturday, Dems next week. So they'll know which one you went to. Nevada caucuses, and again, they're separate, so they'll know if you went to the caucus on Saturday or the Republicans caucus on Tuesday. Now, through the rest of the primary season, you'll know your state. You have to look it up. There are states that separate and states that do it all the same time. Now, it doesn't matter to me at all whether or not your data is mined. But if it matters to you, you might want to leave your cell phone at home or power it completely down, including removing the battery if you can, or turning off the location services at the very least. Just saying. Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it. All right, so welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at the Bruce channel at yahoo.com. You can watch our previous shows at our Facebook page or at tinyurl.com/. tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. If you go to tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel, sign up, subscribe, and if you would, share. All right, some other stuff went on since our last show 2 weeks ago. The same day that the candidates in New Hampshire were braving the cold weather, not only the candidates, the voters, they were all thinking sober thoughts about the future of our country. Other folks were less prosaic. They were more poetic in their contemplations of the day's importance. And when I say poetic, I'm using poetic license too. Likely by day's end, the poetry had devolved into catchphrases. Show us your, collect beads, collect necklaces. I'm referring, of course, to the annual Bacchanalia in Nolens, also known as Fat Tuesday, also known as Mardi Gras. Wine, beer, spirits, parades, floats. I mean, really, what's not to like? Okay, so you know how when you're at this website or that website and there's a little ad or a headline off to the side, they hope to gain your attention and get you to click on them. And they can be anything. 30 ways to use a condom other than what you think, or eat these miracle foods and get your hair back, or look 30 years younger, or stuff. Anyway, I recently encountered one that bothered me, annoyed me. I know it's not that big a deal, but it bothers me when I see such a misuse of language, because language is how we communicate. We cannot understand, we cannot get along if we do not understand what each other is saying. So I'm picky about language. This one was about Christopher Walken. This is not it, but I saw this from over the holidays. I don't know if you saw it, but Walken in the Winter Wonderland. Yeah, I thought it was cute. Anyway, the ad beckoned with these words: 100 true facts you didn't know about Christopher Walken. There are plenty of things I don't know about Christopher Walken, and likely as not, I'm better off not knowing most of them. But whether it's a dozen or 2,000 isn't the issue. It is the redundancy of the words true facts. Facts are never untrue. If they were untrue, they would not be facts. Facts can only be true. So 100 true things you didn't know about Christopher Walken is okay, or 100 facts you didn't know about him would be okay, but 100 true facts is sloppy word usage, to say the least. Oh, hand in glove with that, order now and we'll send you a free gift bothers me also, as opposed to the gifts that you have to pay for. Okay, last week was Valentine's Day. I hope yours was all that it could be. This has been around for a while, but I had hoped to show it to you last week on the day, and then of course we didn't produce a show. So, belatedly, but in the spirit that there is always romance in the air, in case you haven't seen this,
On Premium Light. Some drink it because they're responsible.
What?
Others just love the taste.
Okay, on The Tonight Show, midweek, there was a surprise guest popping in just to do the monologue. It was Jay Leno. It was funny. The good news is, if you missed it, you can watch it online. Just Google Jay Leno guest monologue, Tonight Show, something like that. It's silly, but it is a couple of minutes of unvarnished fun, and that's good for your insides. Finally, last week we did not produce a show because I was working on a picture. It's a feature film called Obamaland, the movie. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously. I will tell you that it's a political satire. It does take place in the future. This picture is of me in the makeup chair. Again, I won't spoil it. It will likely be rated R. I would not take a kid to see it, but I had enormous fun. I am playing a character called Sanderson Archibald Jr. the Third. Yeah, once you get to adopt Southern speak, which I don't know why that is. There I was in the makeup chair. I will have to go back again, not this upcoming week, but the week after that, and I will keep you posted. Sanderson Archibald Jr. the Third. You know, one of these days, I hope to win a role using my real voice. It seems more often than not I'm asked to speak Southern or asked to speak British, which is really strange because my British accent is at best passable. Anyway, that is it for this week. But may this upcoming week be the best one you've ever had.